We are recording. Hey everybody, Beau Jennings here with another installment of my Mercury Lounge live stream. What do you want to call it? Residency, Facebook Live residency. I should have a good name for it by now, a proper intro, but I don't. But that goes along with the whole freewheeling vibe of today's climate. So I am happy to have with me today Betty Sue, who I met last, I guess last fall, late last summer at the Illinois River Jam, which a lot of you probably know about. It's hosted by Travis Linville. And I forgot who played first. Either my band played and then Betty's band played, or vice versa. Either way,
I
um,
can't remember.
can't remember either, but I just remember meeting everybody in your group, and everybody was very sweet and genuine, and you also sounded incredible. And it was just nice to meet genuine, cool, and talented people. And I was joking with Betty earlier when I was trying to find good guests for this stretch that she's somebody that I don't know well enough to know how this conversation is going to go, but I know enough. I know enough that it would be really good, and she's somebody I want to talk to some more. So, welcome, Betty.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I feel like we only got to hang out that one time really at the festival and I mean we were just saying I just feel like you're a buddy already. So yeah, I was glad that you called me up for this.
One cool thing about little events like Illinois River Jam is that you kind of have this. Well, A, it's super small, but you kind of have this vetting process that we all know happened because Travis texted us,
Right.
and it's kind of like, well, I know I know what Travis is about, and he's not gonna get like weirdos or lame people.
Right. He's
Like,
not inviting any jerks. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And by the way, if you've never been to Illinois River Jam, it probably won't happen this year. Um, but if you get a chance, you should go because it's a great atmosphere. But so Betty, I'm going to let you talk in a second, but you were performing with Nobody's Girl that night, which is you and two other fellow songwriters. But I'd also had heard of you before because last couple of years I've been hanging around places like the Blue Door in Oklahoma City and getting a little more plug into just that kind of Oklahoma, Austin, Oklahoma, Texas pipeline,
Mhm.
singer songwriter base. But I would like to just kind of talk to you a little bit about starting out as a songwriter in the Houston slash Austin world and just kind of how you got going.
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, I grew up just outside of Houston in a little town called Spring, Texas, and moved to Austin when I was a teenager and went to school here and just really, I mean, I went to school in Austin because I wanted to live in Austin and found my community here. And it wasn't until I was like in my late 20s that I decided to really do music for my living. I grew up in a musical family and stuff. And, we all, me and my sisters and everybody played instruments and stuff when we were growing up. But um, yeah, I wasn't writing songs. I was writing poetry and short stories and all that kind of stuff. But I had never really written a song until I was, close to 30. And um, I was surprised, honestly, that I could do it, which, you know, I don't know. So I think sometimes there are things that you hold in such high regard that you're so afraid of failing at it that you just don't ever try. And I think songwriting was one of those things to me. It was just something that I loved so much in other people's work that I was afraid to do it and discover I couldn't do it. So, um, but then once I caught the bug, it was over. I couldn't help that I was just writing.
That's interesting to me because I mean, my first songs were probably early college, and most of my friends started way before that. I thought I was a late bloomer, but like, were you listening to singer-songwriter type material, or were you always thinking about this and you just didn't want to dip your toes into it yet? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a mix of a bunch of things. Yeah, I definitely grew up like listening to a lot of great songwriters and, kind of in the spring Klein area outside of Houston, Lyle Lovett is like our hometown hero. So he's always kind of been an idol for me. And through him, I came to really fall in love with like the songs of Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt and Willis Allen Ramsey and just a bunch of these kind of Texas song troubadours. And um I totally lost my thread. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I was just curious, like someone that didn't start writing songs till they were 30. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean that's you've kind of skipped over a lot of those of that time when you might be writing more teen angsty type songs.
Oh, well, I will tell you. I mean, my first songs were no better than anybody else's first songs, but by any means. Um, they were definitely, a first batch of songs. And, um, but I think I didn't, I don't know how to explain it. I think I grew up in this very intensely musical family. And so I had older sisters who just were super good at, playing the instruments that they played and singing and, just like multiple instruments. And I think, we grew up taking lots of music lessons in order to be well-rounded kids. And we were by no means like encouraged to pursue music as a career. And so I think in my mind, there was a little bit of that, like just, hey, this is just something that you do and that you're supposed to enjoy. But um, it's so impossible for even the most talented people to make it that what would why would you possibly presume that you could do that for a living? Like that's
Mhm.
not possible. um and I think also like I grew up in this very kind of strict religious family, and so you just were, and like an immigrant family, and like um there were all of these cultural cues that basically were like anything that draws attention to yourself or that is seen as showing off is like it's just not done, it's not allowed. And so everything about what would encourage somebody to become a performing songwriter was like it was off limits. uh
Drawing
and
attention to yourself and hanging out in bars and
yeah, exactly, like literally every piece of it. And I mean my parents are totally supportive of what I do. They don't disapprove by any means, but there was all this messaging that was kind of, between the lines that
yeah.
I think I really took as a lack of permission.
Well, let's back up even a little bit more. How did you, I'm curious what kind of music you might have heard when you were like a teen that first, I mean, what was it from the start? Was it like troubadour guys or was it like
No,
church music or
it was a lot of church music,
yeah.
a lot of church music. Um, and then,
I
my
feel
friends,
like not to cut you off, but I grew up on that too and
oh yeah,
I've revisited some of that and it's really funny to go back and hear some of the stuff that you're like, that song's pretty good actually.
yeah, totally,
But go
totally. No,
ahead, go ahead.
I've actually been revisiting some of some of that music like in this past few months, and
Awesome.
um, have been like, oh, that stands. Um, but yeah, grew up on church music, like traditional stuff, but also like contemporary Christian music stuff, and then um, friends at school, I was listening to pop music and hip hop and country and, grunge and everything else that was coming out when I was growing up. So, and then my oldest sister was really big into jazz piano. So she actually like joined the jazz band in high school, and she bought these big fake books, and we didn't have like jazz records. Like I think a lot of American kids like grow up with jazz records or knowing about jazz music, like just because it's part of the American culture. And we didn't have that in our house. So um, we started listening to it because of these like tapes that she would bring home from like, from school. And then she had these books, and we would literally just sight read like song after song, like page after page. And we'd go through a book that fat of jazz standards. And that was really how I learned, until I was a little older and could buy those records. Like that was how I was learning a lot of jazz standards, was just like off the page at the piano.
Oh yeah, that's such an education that that's yeah, you shouldn't take that for granted. That's seems way more musically in depth than your average kid is gonna get.
Yeah, I was lucky to have these mentors and people in my life who were, I mean, like really, you could take me any year of my childhood, and there was some extraordinary musical influence in my life that
Oh wow.
I feel really lucky for. Like in elementary school, I had this great music teacher at school. Just that, I mean, he was like the music teacher for the entire elementary school, but he taught us like so many of the old American folk songs that, it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized most people didn't know those songs.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like, but every year of my life, there was somebody like that who just was giving me this gift of music.
So what made you finally write a song?
Well,
Or even want to?
well, it was very scary, but I actually, so I decided, so a mentor of mine, met me for coffee one day and said, everybody in your life knows that you want to do music except for you. And I thought she was crazy, and I thought she was very presumptuous.
That sounds kind of
And
scary for someone to say that,
I
actually.
know, right? Like, who are you to tell me what I want? And why does everybody else know something about me that I don't
Were
know?
you like were you like working a job that was like what were you doing at that point?
Yeah, I was actually working at a church, and I was going to grad school to become a therapist.
Hmm.
So I was getting a counseling degree, and I yeah, I just thought it was really rude. But but I was married at the time, um and my husband, who was like a really sweet, unassuming person, I really thought his reaction when I told him was going to be like, I can't believe she said that. Don't worry about it. You can do whatever you want. And instead, he said, well, I think she's right.
Oh wow.
I was like, oh no, I have to think about this. So I decided, okay, well, I play a little guitar. Um,
Were you
you know,
playing like at church or and stuff or
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, occasionally for like a friend's wedding or, just like stuff like that, or like for fun with my friends or with
yeah.
family. And and in church, yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, I can go out and sing at some of these little places around Austin. I mean, it's everywhere here, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I can play, some Nancy Griffith songs and some Lyle Lovett songs and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I should just like I've have all this background in writing, like I should take a songwriting class. So I took this like informal songwriting class, and it met for like either 4 or 5 Saturday mornings. And like I guess it must have been like the third weekend or something. We were supposed to bring a song for critique at class,
Oh yeah.
and it was like 2 hours before class, and I was like, ah, crap! Like I have not written a song,
Right.
and I just like sat at the computer and like just typed something really fast, and I was like, hopefully she won't get to me. And then I played it at the class, and after class, like several of the other students were like, "Hey, do you ever do any co-writing? Like, we should co-write." And I was like, "I don't even know what that is." Like, so, but it made it, and it wasn't a great song. Like, I look back, it's like it was really not a good song, but that gave me the confidence that I needed to keep writing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then so it just kind of exploded from there, or it started moving from there for you.
Yeah,
Started
yeah,
playing out.
yeah. And I really thought, okay, I need like original material just to be like respected in some like kind of way in Austin. There's such a songwriter culture here.
Totally.
Um, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it and honestly, I took that class not just to write songs. I did it so that I would meet songwriters because I was like, I need material. Like I need new original material. If I find some of these like hungry songwriters, maybe I could sing their stuff.
Oh,
And then I started writing,
like your own, you wanted to sing other people's.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and really, to be honest, like the thing that I love still to this day, the thing I love most is singing harmony with people. And but I knew the only way I was going to get harmony gigs was if I was singing out as a soloist. Like people had to hear me. So so yeah, it was like I was singing solo so that I could sing harmony, and then I was writing songs so that I could sing solo. And like
You're just avoiding it at all costs.
Totally, totally.
Every chance you get. So then, how did you made a record
Hmm.
eventually? How like did that come kind of quick for you, or did you like how did you make it? Where'd you make it, and how did you save up for it and stuff?
Yeah, it happened really quickly. I I was going to these different songwriter groups in Austin, like just to get some song critique and learn more about the craft. And I met my friend Stephen Doster at the Austin Songwriters Group, and he's a great guitar player, great singer, great everything, and he'd produced some albums that I thought sounded good, and he was like totally willing to work with my budget, which was almost nothing. And I called up some of my friends from like church bands, over the years and asked if they would come play on my record.
They're
And
usually great musicians.
Mhm.
Usually those are good musicians.
Yeah, yeah, they were great. They were great. And it was funny because after we had our session days, uh Steven told me, he was like, I was really nervous about like an entire band of people that I didn't know. Like he was like, I know everybody. He was like, there's this whole crew of people that I don't know, and it's like, is this gonna suck? And he was like,
Right.
man, they were really good. And I was like, yeah, they're good.
Cool. Um, would you play a song?
Sure.
I don't know if I you can play whatever you'd like, but it'd be kind of interesting to hear something like one of your early songs that maybe was on that first record or that kind
Oh God, I don't remember any songs from that. I'm being dead honest. I haven't played those songs in so long because they're not very good.
of play a new one.
Okay. Throw out the leftovers you never ate. Go through the bill, see if anything's late. Put an old record on, set the volume to 8. Turn off the lights when the record is through. Watch TV in bed, let it cast you in blue. Leave the curtains open, let the neighbors watch too. When morning comes around, grind up some beans. Pour a cup of water into the machine. Drink it hot at the sink. Then rinse your mug clean and put it right back on the rack. Since you woke up alone 2 years ago, you've had some time to let her go. Yeah, living on your own ain't as hard as before. No one to tell you to shut the cupboard doors. No one to shake you awake when you snore. No one to say that's too big a bore. No one to tell you she's looking for more. No one to stay up pacing the floor. No one to show you what tears are for. No one to pack up, empty the drawers. No one to drive off in the night anymore. Anymore. Roll down the windows, let the traffic noise in. Let the evening air brace your arms, goose skin. Enjoy your cigarette dinner, making you thin again. Pick up a bottle on your way home tonight. Unlock the door, turn on the hall light. Tell yourself everything's just as you like. Since you woke up alone 2 years ago, you've had some time to let her go. Yeah, living on your own ain't as hard as before. No one to tell you to shut the cupboard doors. No one to shake you awake when you snore. No one to say that's too big a bore. No one to tell you she's looking for more. No one to stay up pacing the floor. No one to show you what tears are for. No one to pack up, empty the yourself. Everything's just as you like.
That was beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you.
Oh, so I was listening to some of your tunes earlier this week to kind of prep for this. And one thing that I really liked and I thought was interesting about your sound is it could go a lot of ways production wise. Like I hear, I- obviously it's acoustic based and it's, in that singer songwriter vein, but it's not obvious to me in a good way what you would do with it if you were to go record that with the band right now. Like you could just do a lot of things with it, and I don't hear you necessarily like stuck in this. And so, is that kind of reflective of like what you listen to? Do you feel like you listen to lots of stuff?
I think it is. I mean, in fact, it's funny that you said that because I very often will take a song and then I'll demo it multiple ways. And occasionally, even by the time I get in the studio and have players with me, we might cut it two different ways. Because I hear my songs, I hear them with different treatments. Yeah, I mean, I love Hank Williams as much as I love the Pretenders. I think there are a lot of songs that can, um, I don't know, that not only survive different treatments like that, but can really showcase different parts of the song with different production treatments. And I think that's part of the fun of it.
Totally, yeah. That song had a lot of just had a lot of like, oh, I can't think of the right words right now, but just kind of an exploration of maybe a failed relationship or the end of a relationship. What kind of things do you like typically like get inspired to write? What kind of things typically inspire you to write?
Well, I write a lot about that. I write a lot about relationships falling apart. And yeah, I don't know, but I think ever since I was a kid, I've always like spun a lot of stories in my head, or I'd watch a movie, or I was a total book nerd, and I always think about all the different characters in a book or a movie or a short story, and I think about their backstories, or if there's like a really minor character, I develop a whole kind of movie in my mind for that person, and I've just always done that. And like as a kid, you would hear me muttering all the time because I was like making up dialogue for all these other characters, and or for my dolls or whatever. And I think all of those stories, all of those dramas, like I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of addicted to that. And so um my songs tend to come from all those different places, just kind of imagining putting myself into all these other stories.
Yeah, are there any specific authors that you feel like kind of really set you on your path in terms of writing?
You know, it's a hard question because there are writers that I really love, but I'm a I feel like I'm the least qualified judge to see if their voice is echoed at all in my own writing. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Because to me, I feel like my writing sounds so um, simple and kind of conversational and really not very stylized. And a lot of the writers that I like, um, some of them are very stylized. So, I think I don't know how you grow up in the southern half of the country, or maybe even the northern half, and not grow up reading Flannery O'Connor,
Hmm.
and uh, just that tension that she always has between trying to understand what right and wrong is, or good and bad news, and
Sure, yeah. Yeah. I'm curious. I kind of want to shift to talking about Nobody's Girl
yeah.
and how that came about. Like I was saying, that was kind of my introduction to what you guys what you do, and then Grace and Rebecca, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, tell me how you guys met and how you guys decided let's do a band.
Yeah, well, It's another funny story. I keep falling into things accidentally. So the three of us actually met, I think, in 2008, and we were all hanging out at the Kerrville Folk Festival out in the Texas Hill Country. Rebecca and I were both in New Folk, which is kind of their songwriting competition, and Grace was like a teenager, and or maybe she was 20, somewhere around there. And we all became friends, and over the years, we've done one-off shows, two of us at a time at any given point, a few times. And Rebecca and I think did one little co-build tour years ago. Um, but we never really intended to be a band. And then a couple years ago, we decided, I think it was Rebecca's idea, like, why don't the three of us just go on a co-build tour, three songwriters in the round, and we'll probably do some harmonies and it'll be fun. Because we all have like a similar audience, but not necessarily a total overlap. So it was kind of this like just savvy business move.
Yeah.
And then I thought, it would be really fun if we could just write one song together because it'll be this really special moment in the show and the fans will love it, and it'll be fun for us. We'll all get a new song out of it. And Grace was like, yeah, great. And Rebecca apparently was internally like, no, because she doesn't do a ton of co-writing. And then, I mean, she does some, but but she acted really game. She was like, okay, yeah, that's great. So, and then Grace said, I have these friends who have this studio out in the hill country, and uh, they have these like artist studio apartments attached to the recording studio, and I bet they would let us, because we were all talking about, oh, roommates or spouses or whatever, like, how are we going to carve out time to really be focused together? And she said, I bet they'd let us stay overnight and have like a mini songwriter retreat. So she called them up and they said, sure, come out here for a night. And we went out there. We ended up writing three songs that night. And in the morning, we met the owners of the studio and we were thanking them, like, thanks so much for letting us come out here. We can't believe we wrote three songs in one night, and can we play them for you? As a just as a to thank you
Sure.
for your hospitality. And they said, great. So we played the three songs, and then they said, actually, so we're starting a record label, and we'd like to give you a deal. And we were like,
Overnight.
oh, I guess we're a band. So yeah, it was crazy. We were recording. We were a band, and we're recording an album for a record deal before we had ever played a single show together.
What was this record label called?
They're called Lucky Hound, and we're still working with them.
Oh, cool. So that's
Yeah.
they started with you, is that right?
No, they had just started, and they had a couple of artists already, but they were like, we're just starting this label, and like, we would love to work with you. And they have this incredible recording facility and a great team, and we were like, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, that's really incredible how just kind of opening yourself up to an opportunity led to another one and
Yeah, and it feels like such a like 1950s or 60s story, right? Like
yeah.
walking into a studio playing and then getting a deal. Like, oh, that doesn't happen.
It reminds me of that Tom Petty documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, but they talk about being a band in Florida and they're like, man, we got to get out of here. And so they just get in a van and drive to LA. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, we got to LA. And so we found a phone booth and we looked in the phone book for record labels and we called one. And they said, come over. And then we played our song and then we were signed.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore.
So then so then you guys, sounds like you got together, wrote more tunes and made your first record pretty quick after that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, those were our songs. I think we wrote maybe one or two more, and then recorded our EP, and then started touring together. And it's been so busy since.
Was that an adjustment to switch from writing songs on your own to sharing with those two?
Yes. And, I think Grace and I have both done a lot of co-writing before, but it's definitely a completely different animal um, when you're co-writing with somebody that you're going to be performing these songs with.
Yeah.
Because I don't even have the words for explaining it, but it's so different because when you're co-writing with somebody and you're both independent artists from each other, there are lots of things that you'll really hammer out and try to get as good as possible. But then, like little tiny disagreements, you just think, I'll perform it this way, you'll perform it that way. Like that one word, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, but when you're going to be on stage together performing that song every night, you've got to come to agreement. And man, it's a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah. There's a lot of way more give than take in a situation like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I've only done a co-write a handful of times in my life, and for me personally, I still haven't cracked the code to find a way that works for me. And I think it, I don't know, I'll probably have to ask you later for more tips on offline how to do that, but it's such a, it's just such a strange animal. And the few times that it's worked, it's because I was really in sync with that other person and we were coming from the same place.
Yeah.
And when I've been put in rooms with people that were just coming from totally different worlds, I want that to work. And in my brain, it's like, oh, this will be interesting, but it just hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be some kind of mutual feeling, some kind of mutuality that's got to
Yeah.
take place. And I mean, I will say for 90% of the co-writes that I've done, um, whether I know them well or don't know them at all, um, I usually start off just talking about life with them because I've got to feel some kind of sympathetic feeling about them, and I want them to feel some kind of sympathetic feeling about me because you have to go into this, you know, trust exercise together. So,
Yeah. Uh, do you have any tunes like do you have a Nobody's Girl song that you can play by yourself?
yeah, sure.
Good one.
Let's see, where's my little guitar barrette?
Is that different than a capo? Is that what you call it?
It's just a capo. Our friend John D. Graham, he jokes with me whenever I put one of these on, put a capo on my guitar. He's like, "Oh, gotta get your guitar barrette." Well, this is a song that we wrote together called Kansas. That high school looked like prison. Glazed eyes just trying to fit in. Slowed sorry. Just choke.
Is that what
That high school looked like prison. Glazed eyes just trying to fit in. Slow dances, sloppy kissing. You did your time. You didn't know what you were missing. All secondhand ambition. Till you went drifting down the double yellow line. You went from black and white, technicolor overnight. You ain't in Kansas anymore. Nothing's the same as it was before. You're such a long way gone. Can't click your heels and go home again, baby. And one thing's for sure, you ain't in Kansas anymore. Framed on your mother's mantle is the you they all could handle. Out here you're such a scandal. Now you're on your own. The grown you can't hold a candle to that kid in light blue flannel. Now you watch a different channel than the folks at home. You've seen that curtain fall, nothing back there after all. You ain't in Kansas anymore. Nothing Nothing's the same as it was before. You're such a long way gone. Can't click your heels and go home. You ain't in Kansas anymore. Nothing's the same as it was before. You're such a long way gone. Can't click your heels and go home again, baby. And one thing's for sure, you ain't in Kansas anymore.
So good. So good. Yeah.
Thanks.
That tremolo. Uh, that song had such a classic, it has such a classic structure and feel to it. It feels like, I don't know, it reminded me of, I could be way off here, it reminded me of some like one of those just really awesome 80s country songs.
Oh, totally.
They're just like, they're so like pure hearted, and it's like, and it's just got all the right super sturdy building blocks to it, like a super strong melody, and the bridge is just like, oh fuck yeah, that's right, bridge. I mean, so, but it also, what, as I was listening, I was like, this song feels a little more like topically broad than the one you played earlier that felt kind of specific. Do you have to, when you're writing with the other girls, do you like have to trim out certain details sometimes? Do you kind of go for a more wider net? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think
I could be making all
uh,
this up. Like maybe that was a hyper specific song, but to me it sounded a little more just broad.
no, I think that makes sense. I don't think I had thought about it really consciously before, but um, I do think that when the three of us write together, we definitely, like all three of us grew up and still love a lot of pop music, but um, a lot of the stuff that we do on our own tends to be like a little more songwritery or a little bit more folky or more country or or more rock. And when the three of us are together, what ends up happening is we really kind of veer more in a pop direction. And so like even with country tinged stuff like that song, it's still more country pop than like
Sure.
country balladeer, you know?
I felt like I heard like Trisha Yearwood or Martina McBride.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was an
I think
awesome
we're
line.
definitely influenced by them.
Like I don't know, I could just hear them singing that for sure.
Yeah, bring it. I'd love that.
You guys ever write with the intention of having someone else cut it, or do you have someone pitching songs like that?
I think, I mean, we do have, both our label and then each of us with our publishing contacts and stuff. We're definitely interested in having other people sing these songs. We are realistic about the fact that we are not likely to be the biggest vehicle for anything that any of us write,
Yeah,
much less what the three of us write together. Um, but I mean, but I don't think we are really holding that in our minds as we write. Like as we write, we're definitely thinking about the three of us presenting this song to our fans, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I want you to play another one, but before you do, I should have done a sound check earlier. I noticed a little clipping on that one. I don't know if you can,
Oh, am I distorting a little? Okay.
I don't know if you can back off a touch.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably better. Yeah, sorry. I didn't realize my thing had reset before we started.
Yeah, give her a strum
Let
there.
me do a little loud strummy. You're such a long way gone.
Yeah,
That better?
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. Let's hear another tune.
Okay. Let me think. You know. Well, this is one that I wrote, but that we tend to do a lot as a group. You know, back in the days when we could be in the same room. I'm gonna get a tougher pick. That pick is too thin. Sorry?
The guitar sounds amazing, by the way.
Oh, thanks. When the sun still beating down September, can't touch your toes to that pavement in the afternoon. You're swinging out front, wondering whether the sins of the summer gonna come catch up with you soon. You never knew no dirt didn't come off the kitchen end. Knew no stay like the one you're hiding down there. Knew no man like the one you've been missing there. Knew no love could break love's vow. I found my face, but that moving just makes me hotter. Try to sit still as that creek down by the way. That tried it ain't seen no fresh water. It's spent the last few months trying out without the rain. I never knew no dirt didn't come off the kitchen ever. Knew no stain like the one I'm hiding down never. Knew no man like the one I've been missing never. Knew no love could break love's vow. I can't go back to the water's edge. Can't go back to his arms. Can't go deep beneath that glass surface. I can't dry off that summer sun. I never knew no dirt didn't come off in the kitchen never. Knew no stain. I never knew no man like the one I've been missing. I never knew no dirt didn't come off in the kitchen never. Knew no stain, baby, and I never knew no man like the one I've been missing never. Knew no love could break love's vow.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. Good
Thanks.
stuff. Tell me about how pandemic world has what that's done to you guys. I've we're buds on social media, so it doesn't seem like at least you personally have slowed down at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen that Nobody's Girl has done a number of um, virtual events as well. But tell me how, like, you guys probably had dates that a bunch of dates got canceled,
Oh
and what
yeah.
those first couple days, like, you're probably text groups, like, just tell me how that went down for you guys. Just realizing all your income, like, just boop.
Boop, boop, gone. Yeah. Um, you know, we we did. We had months of touring that has gotten canceled, like every musician. Um, and we were supposed to release an album next month, but we've pushed that back to February because we can't tour it. And we're doing some in the round stuff online, but we can't sing harmony, and we're kind of that's kind of our thing. We're a harmony group,
Yeah.
uh, and we can't be in the same room to rehearse. So it's hard for the group. Uh, we're still making things though, like we've we are trying to do more collaborative video stuff. Like I'll put down some tracks and then they'll stack some tracks on it, and so we're kind of doing virtual harmony, studio style, I guess.
Yeah.
And and when then we've been making music videos for the singles as they're coming out from the upcoming record. um but it's a challenge, I mean, for everybody right now to, I don't know about you, but like watching or even just being on video is pretty much my like least favorite thing in the world. It
It's
makes me
really,
so self-conscious.
it's
And
really,
I'm like, oh, of course now that's like my whole job is to be on the freaking camera all the time. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just like, and the thing that I love most, like I was saying earlier, like I just wanted to be a harmony singer. The thing that I love is collaboration. Like that's my number one absolute most favorite thing about making music. And so, I'm definitely finding enough work to love right now, but but I will say that it is strange that my my number one favorite thing has been replaced by my number one hated thing in my job.
Yeah. It seemed like early on, a lot of people, because this kind of hit mid-March, and it seemed like early on, a lot of people said, yeah, my show in April or May, well, we're going to push that to August, you know.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long to see that that wasn't going to work either. Did you guys have to schedule, or did you have to cancel any reschedules yet? Or
Um, well, no, yes and no in a way. I think I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. So, shh, everybody.
okay,
Um,
I'll
no, I'm
stop
kidding. I'm
recording.
kidding. Yeah. No, I mean, I think the three of us really from the beginning held the view that like until, and we still hold this, that until there's either a vaccine or widespread effective available treatment, um, we don't feel like uh, it doesn't line up with our kind of moral and ethical values to invite people to be in a small confined space with us
Yeah.
where we're going to be like basically spitting at everybody, and then moving to the next town and spitting at everybody again, like that. It it just seems like we're inviting people to bring risk into their life that we don't feel comfortable
You don't,
imparting. So,
you don't seem like a spitty band.
well, anytime you're singing, you're spitting, man. It's just how it goes. So, yeah, and really the three of us being that close on stage and breathing that deeply and that quickly and spitting, I mean, it's been known to spread more among people who sing. And I think the three of us knew that. I mean, we let kind of our team, our manager, and our agents and stuff kind of go with things as the venues felt comfortable. But I think the three of us kind of knew that the rest of the year was shot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
at
for
least,
sure.
at least. So
Yeah, it feels like that could be way
could be
longer.
another year. I mean, we don't know.
I know. Um, oh, what was I about to ask you? Oh, I've seen a number of notices for events, certainly in Austin, maybe other places too, where they're doing these drive-up concerts.
Yeah,
Have you done one of those?
I haven't done one.
Or have you been
Uh,
to
I haven't been to one either. I've really just been in my house.
one?
I've left for very few things.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture how that goes, and I really like the ingenuity there and the
Yeah.
and I there's been some Oklahoma's a little more lax about these things than we should be, but I bring that up because I've seen some local venues start to open back up with super limited capacity. But and your first, at least me personally, my first instinct is, I don't think you guys should do that.
Right.
But it's tough too because this is how these guys make money too, and I don't want to tell them, I don't want to cut them off from their income, and so and that leads me to the drive-in concert. I'm trying to picture what that experience is like, but I applaud the people organizing it to trying to find a way to let musicians keep working. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, from what I hear, it's like going to a drive-in movie, and I think it's a great idea, personally. I know some people poo-poo it, and I'm not even sure why they poo-poo it. I haven't heard any really good, compelling reasons. Um, but yeah, I mean, bars are definitely opening up here, and um, I've gotten some offers to play gigs, and I'm just like, what are you thinking? Um, I think it's fine. I think there are a few places around here that are being extremely strict, and it's outdoors only, and anybody who would be making music is going to be 20 feet away from any of the patrons, and um, because of the accelerated spit factor that happens, and I mean, I do, and they're having very strict policies about how the patrons can interact with each other. And I do think there are some people who are taking it very seriously and trying to make it as safe as possible.
sure, yeah,
Um, but there are definitely some bars that are just like, we're gonna squirt your hands when you come in, and
yeah,
and like you, I don't want to pass judgment because I don't know their situation. I don't know what other desperate circumstances they're facing in their life.
right.
Um, but personally, I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, and well, I shouldn't say I'm in the same boat. I'm not a full-time musician. I've been working my day job this whole time. Um, so I don't have to weigh those risks against my personal income. So that's where I try to just be super open-minded and like, hey, whatever you got to do to make money, I totally get it. And yeah, I have a lot of compassion for people trying to figure that out right now because it's tricky.
Yeah, it is. And it would help if there was, clearer communication from our leaders, um, and more agreement from, just between the political leaders and scientific community. I think that would
Oh
go
yeah.
such a long way to helping people know what to do, but
Yeah.
we're
I
not
feel like
there
I
yet.
would be remiss if I didn't ask you how things are in Austin this past week with just the nationwide, actually worldwide, protests and things going on. Has that affected your neighborhood, or have you been affected by that?
Yeah, I mean, it's there've definitely been there's been lots of peaceful protesting in Austin, um, and there has been some looting, and it definitely seems like in a lot of other places in Austin, the looting is not done really by any of the people who are attending the protests. It just seems like a totally separate group of people who are doing that,
Sure.
and you know, there's a there's a lot of tension, and rightly so. I
Yeah.
think it's a you can't you can't treat people so poorly for so long and not expect them to do something about it. When you've waited 400 years to be even occasionally treated as an equal, and nothing you say or do breaks through, there's going to be a collective anger and righteous anger that's going to come from that. So,
Amen. That makes so much sense. I was talking with a friend earlier today about it, and in kind of the scheme of history, things like you know, slavery or the Civil War, those things were essentially essentially yesterday in terms of they're very recent, and there's still a lot of people that were alive during. There's some people that were alive during those things, or their parents were, or their grandparents were, and you need a lot of. There's just going to be a lot of time still needed to let these things sort out, and you hope and pray that you can accelerate that as much as possible. But yeah, I think we got to remember these things these we're not that far removed from some of the darkest parts of our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, because I think there's been, I mean, I know in Austin, as much as anywhere else, there's been a lot of mixed messaging from different religious leaders, and a lot of the clergy in Austin have been totally supportive of the protests and the protesters and of the message of equality, and I am very grateful for that. But occasionally you hear another voice that uh, I don't know, it seems not very sympathetic and I think not
Right.
very humanist, um, but I just think about, I grew up, like we were talking about earlier, I grew up in this extremely religious background. And you think about how in the Old Testament, what's seen as like a real epic of time is 40 years.
Mm,
That's a real marked amount of time, an era of suffering. If you wandered for 40 years in the desert, that is like serious suffering. And if your whole people were looking for a place and looking to be treated well and looking for a place that would treat them like home and that they could treat as home, that was seen as an extremely long time.
hmm
And it has been 55 years since, our civil rights movement. I mean, it's been longer than that just since the last little tiny chapter. And it's been 10 times that since people were basically kidnapped and brought across the ocean and treated like chattel. So, um, the fact that there's not that parallel sympathy for humans, suffering the same kinds of things that we lament, that religious people relent from the Old Testament,
hmm
um, that just seems like a real blind spot to me.
that's incredible insight. I hadn't framed it that way before, and as you're saying it, I'm just like, wow, so right. It's so um, that's like a profound way to see it, um, and against that kind of backdrop because it's so rarely compared to that situation.
Yeah, and it's funny because like in it when you're in Sunday school, well, those are the protagonists.
Yep.
So and I think there's something very revealing about the fact that people aren't seeing Black America as the protagonists of this story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's crushing.
It is.
Uh, on that note, uh,
I know. Sorry
I
about
I feel like we could. No, I brought it up, and I actually.
that. And I'm not actually sorry.
Oh, I know you're not. Well, part of what's funny about this is we're still learning how to talk about it. We're still
Yeah,
learning how to talk about it without feeling. You either blush or you feel compelled to crack a joke or get really serious about it, and we can't. We're still trying to find like our legs to like
right.
just talk about this all the time. And how do we just bring this to the forefront of our consciousness all the time? But
Yeah. And it's been interesting for me having conversations with so many of my friends about it because, you know, I grew up as the daughter of immigrants, and I don't look like, I look like 2% of our population. And people have always made all kinds of assumptions about me based on my ethnicity. And I've I have no idea what it's like to grow up in America as a white American, and I have no idea what it's like to grow up in America as a black American. And and very few people in this country know what it's like to grow up looking like me.
mm-hmm.
So it's been such an interesting thing to look at this struggle and to identify with so many different pieces of it. And at the same time to not really feel like I have a home in any of it. And it's it's very displacing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Um, I feel like we have 2 hours more of things,
I know.
and it's been it. I'm so grateful you did this because all these conversations have been so fun, and going into each one, I kind of fretted like, I hope we can fill an hour. And my first one was like an hour and a half. then I trimmed it back a little bit. I did one earlier today that was an hour, and I think we're gonna land it right at an hour. But I'm so grateful for you giving me some of your time and to just kind of talk to you more. So thank you for joining me. Would you play one more before we peace out?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I've so enjoyed this. Thanks for having me, Bo. And I knew it was going to be fun. I knew it was going to be fun. I was like, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. And I don't know if most of your artists are other Tulsa artists or.
No, that on purpose. I kept it not Tulsa people. In fact, earlier today I talked to a filmmaker who also lives in Austin. Um, I'm talking to a poet friend of mine from LA tomorrow. Like I'm just kind of trying to cast the net really wide, you know. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Oh, before you play, how can people find your stuff?
Oh, yeah. So you can find me Betty Sue, SOO, just like it's written on there, bettysue.com. And then for Nobody's Girl, you can find us at wearenobodiesgirl.com.
Got it. All right, take us home.
All right. This is one I just wrote this weekend. Is my sound doing something weird?
There's a slight warble or something happening.
Hold on one second. I'm going to pull that down again.
That feels a little better.
Is that better?
Oh yeah.
Hold on one second. I'm just going to. Okay, hopefully that's better. How long will one man decide if another man can draw air to his own lungs? How long, and how long will the knee come down to crush the neck of one of God's beloved sons? How long, not long, 'cause no lie can live forever. Not long, 'cause you shall reap what you sow. Not long, but we said not long, 55 and 400 years ago. And how long will our bodies be tired, drenched, and burned, marching, carrying the sin of the world? How long, and how long, despite our labor, will we not have enough to eat, nor taste the fruit of our work? How long, not long, 'cause no lie can live forever. And not long, 'cause you shall reap what you sow. Not long, but far back as we can see, this is all man has ever known. How long, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. what you saw. Not long, but we said not long, 55 and 400 years ago.